CSD, Minisink Valley community. All right, fresh off coming from volleyball practice, but definitely was able to get here in time for the board meeting. So let's see what today brings. Okay, it's getting closer to the time where we're going to be voting on the budget and things of that nature, so we got to get involved. All right, let's get informed. Well, it's after the meeting. You probably tell because it's darker. Oh, man, a lot of information, a lot of stuff to wrap your head around. Going from the budget meeting, which is just absolutely, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff in there, so many questions. Should have brought a piece of paper and a pen to write them down. And then going to the explanation of the capital project. I would love for you guys to watch this, and I'd love to know what you think. I know what I think. A lot of information there, but you know, this is the time to get informed, right? All right, so have a great evening. And if you get a chance, let me know what you think.
Good evening. Welcome to Minisink Valley Board of Education meeting of March 26th. We do have a quorum. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have approval of minutes. Be resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent, approves the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of March 12th, 2026. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second, Patty Reynolds.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstain?
Abstain.
One abstention. Motion carries. Next, we have the welcome to the visitors section, and we do have a few people signed up. So I'll invite you down. Just please remember we have 4 minutes or a total of an hour. So, Ariane?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board this evening. My name is Ariane Patzel, and I am the intermediate school nurse. I was hired in 2023 after 16 years in acute and subacute care. My background spans multiple specialties, from trauma to med-surg, from bedside nurse to assistant director. I have chaired committees, directed evacuations, and I've saved lives. I've held national certifications in every specialty I've worked in, including school nursing. The rigor needed to pass these exams and the fortitude it takes to maintain these certifications are very difficult. I'm not unique in this. Every nurse in this district brings a comparably deep well of experience, skill, and commitment. Most are simply too humble to list their accomplishments the way I just did. At some point, each of us made the decision to enter school nursing. We came for different reasons, but we share a common purpose: to ensure the health and wellness of our students so that they are able to come to school ready to learn. When the margins of education are eroded by chronic absenteeism, chronic illness, and complex medical needs, school nurses are the ones holding the line. We stabilize, we intervene, we make it possible for students to attend school when in another setting, they may not be able to at all. There's a persistent belief that nursing, especially school nursing, is a calling, and therefore should be compensated as such, reduced to Band-Aids and ice packs. If only it were that easy. Nursing is not the priesthood, it is a profession. Like teaching, like engineering, like law. It requires education, clinical judgment, and skill. All nurses are intelligent, highly trained, adaptable professionals. Our recent pay increase should have been a moment of recognition. We believed it signaled an investment in the vital, often invisible work we do. We believed it would help attract and retain high-quality nurses to meet the growing and increasingly complex needs of our students. Instead, 2 positions were abolished. The pay increase was negotiated without our knowledge or input. The elimination of positions was decided without our input. We learned of these changes only after they were publicly posted. No one asked us what we needed. No one asked us how this would impact our ability to care for students and staff during emergencies. No one asked us how this would affect the students themselves. Nurses know what nurses need. We are not asking for control. We are asking for collaboration. We have earned a seat at the table, and all you have to do is pull up a chair. I just want to quickly recap over this last year, some things with our positions. In October of 2025, an LPN position was abolished in place of an RN position. That was, I assume, for Heather, who became an LPN, or who became an RN. A month later, she resigned without notice, and another LPN position was created. The data was there to support these creations. And then in February, both of those positions were abolished. I don't know if there was any new data that supported that, but if the data was there to create it, I'm not really sure what happened in those few months to support the abolition of those positions. I just want to also quickly, if I have some time left, the high school has almost 1,100 enrolled students. Gabby is there alone, the only nurse in that building. Middle school, 815. Once again, she is alone. There is a health aide, but that obviously does not take, that's not a nurse. The elementary school has 447. I have 510, and Otisville has 540, and in our building we share an LPN. I hope you all can understand where we're coming from with this. We understand that balancing a budget is tenuous, tedious work, but we do it as families every day across Minisink, across the country. So I hope in the future that nurses are asked for their input and we are seen as vital members of this education system. Thank you.
Navi Carey? Oh, no. Navi Carey? Oh, she's got, I'm sorry.
Right over here.
I'm looking, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Maddie Carey, and I'm here to suggest an important assembly topic that I'm certain many of my peers from both middle school and high school struggle with in silence. I'm a freshman in high school, and about a year ago, I developed an eating disorder. As each month passed, it progressed more and more. As a result, on January 23rd of this year, I was forced to leave school, my family, my home, my friends, and my whole life behind to be admitted to a 24-hour care facility. This required timed meals and timed snacks, which were supervised by our recovery coaches. All my independence, dignity, and privacy was stripped away. After spending 7 weeks there, I was discharged, but that wasn't the end of my treatment. I now am in a partial hospitalization program each day of the week that is set up the same way as my residential. However, at the end of the day, I get to go home. To date, I have missed 43 days of school and will continue to miss until I'm done with my treatment. I'm telling you all this because I think it would be incredibly beneficial to the students here at Minisink to have an assembly about eating disorders, body image, mental health issues, and the negative impact of diet culture and social media on these topics. These things are something that aren't talked about nearly as much as they should be, and so many children and adults, both genders, struggle with. So many students struggle with accepting and loving themselves and how they look. Social media has put into our brains that current diet culture is normal and healthy, but it's not. It's the opposite, and it's crucial that people know this and take it seriously. A very sad statistic is that eating disorders have the highest mortality rate for all mental health disorders, and I was almost part of that statistic. On January 23rd, my life was saved, and I'm going to make it my mission that no children here at Minisink go through the grueling experience I went through. I would even be open to talking to the middle school students about my experience and reassuring them that there is help available and this is not normal. I would love if you guys strongly considered this and help me advocate for educating the Minisink Valley students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Maddie.
Sure.
Thank you everyone for your comments. Now we will go to the superintendent's report with Mr. Monahan.
Thank you, Mr. Monaco.
You're welcome.
So I wanted to take some time tonight and go over our capital project status this capital project started in 2017. I will let you know, Mr. Withrow may jump in at a couple times on some points on the finance piece and stuff, but I thought it was important to provide you kind of a recap of our entire project from start to finish.
Mr. Monahan, would you like us to sit there?
Up to you. I leave it up to you. Why not? Come on over. comfortable? We have a few slides. We've been doing this project. This project actually started back in probably 2016 when we started having some conversations about work that needed to be done around a number of our buildings. So I wanted to kind of walk you through a little bit of how a capital project starts. First, it's the design of the project. How does that happen? Well, we work with the Board of Education, administration, our community to really learn about the things that we think we need to work on in our buildings. Who else do we talk to? Well, we bring our licensed architects in. Now, we also had done a building condition survey. That is mandated by New York State every 5 years to have a building condition survey done so that we can assess where the buildings are, what the needs are 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out, so you can start to plan for what is potentially going to have to be done on renovations and work on your buildings. So after we review everything with the architects, we then move on and we finalize and create a potential timeline and budget for that potential project. Next, you have to talk about the finance piece of it. And that's where you start to work with your bond counsel. You want to estimate how much of the work is actually aidable. Okay? Certain spaces have more aid than other spaces. Classrooms versus a cafeteria. Classrooms versus an auditorium. All of those things have different aid ratios. So you have to try to plan for that and figure out what the potential impact may be to your taxpayers. Council, bond counsel, fiscal advisors, and everything also work with us to determine the best time to move forward with financing. If you were here earlier at our finance meeting, you heard Mr. Witherow talk about how sometimes we ban versus bond based on when debt is coming off and debt can go back on so that there's not a large fluctuation for our taxpayers. They help work with us on all of that. Next, you work with your attorney because you have to develop a proposition that is going to go out for the vote to the community. Then you also have to work with the attorney to deal with the State Environmental Quality Review Act requirements and to make your determinations of what the impact on the environment would be, or is it a negative declaration on that? Then what you do is you set a vote timeline to hold the vote, and there are certain dates about putting information out, flyers to the community, and then what the actual vote date is, and you have to kind of work back from that date to set all those other dates up. We held our vote on February 7th, 2017. This is the actual proposition that the community voted on. Couple parts, I won't read it to you, but a couple parts to highlight. First and foremost, you notice the sewage treatment is the first thing that is mentioned there. Why? Because that was probably the most important piece of this current capital project. There's a life expectancy of, unfortunately, sewer treatment plants. I live in Hidden Valley. I've had to deal with that as well. Our sewage treatment plant life expectancy was about 25 years. Our plant was turned on in 2000 and hasn't shut off. Finally, in 2025, when we finished our current plant, we were able to get the other plant up and running, and we're able to shut that other plant off, and it was on its last legs. We were limping it to the finish line. And very fortunate to have somebody like Mr. Tranchina, who has a lot of experience in that, who is helping us to get that plant to last the way it needs to last. This part of the project has to be done. The Slate Hill campus cannot function without having the waste treatment plant. So that's why that is probably the most important part of the entire plan was the sewage treatment facility. We also talked in there about reconstruction and work on all of our various school buildings across the campuses, okay? The estimated cost was $36,935,000. Also mentioned in the proposition was the capital reserve that we had established in 2016, where we moved $5 million into that reserve to offset some of the costs to our community of things that were less aidable or not aidable. But that's the proposition it talks about. And you'll see at the end, obligations of said school district shall be issued. What are obligations? I guess the best way to say it is, if we pass this, the Brinks truck doesn't back up to Minisink Valley and dump off $36 million to us. What happens is it authorizes the district to borrow money to fund the projects. The authorization was for borrowing up to $31,935,000. Why that? Because the capital reserve was the other $5 million as part of that proposition. So, as I said, important facts to know. The proposition authorizes the borrowing of money to finance the capital work. Somebody used yesterday a good example. It's like a construction loan. You use some of the money as you need it. Not that you have to take the whole money right away. You use it as you put the projects in and you require the financing.
So just, if I
Go ahead, here.
So one of the things we do is every year at this time of year, we are projecting what we're gonna need for capital funds for the following school year. We will be going to BAN, it's a short-term loan, a bond anticipation note. It's a one-year loan, and the way it's financed is, so we will project how much money we need, we know how much money we have on hand, we will go out to BAN to get the money. So in year one, we BAN for whatever money we need to start. Year two, we have more construction we're gonna do in year two, so we're gonna need more money. So we'll get a new BAN, which will pay off the old BAN and give us new operating cash to fund the construction project. That process repeats until we can no longer BAN and we have to convert to long-term debt, which would be when we bond. Now when we bond, that's when we're finally getting the real money in that pays for all of this work that was done. And when we bond, we're only able to bond for projects that have been completed and submitted the final paperwork to SED. So we couldn't be halfway through a project, say we expected something that costs $8 million, we couldn't be $4 million in and say, well, we want to bond this one too, we think it's going to cost. No, we can't. That has to remain in a BAN until everything's wrapped up and we know what the final costs are. Only at that point is it eligible to even be bonded.
Thank you, Mr. Witherow. So with that, the district has 10 years to complete all of the work and submit everything up to SED. The New York State Education Department, thank you. So, the district's proposition also authorized, as I said, the use of the capital reserve fund. So our capital reserve fund was funded at $5 million, designated, as I said, as parts of offsetting parts of the project that were not state aidable or had very low state aid. The capital reserve has been expended in the required amount of time. So we have 10 years to expend the $5 million, which we've done. So what were the target areas for our capital project? As I said, first and foremost, the project was centered around having to do the waste treatment facility. So that's the first thing we looked at. Next was infrastructure, maintenance, system replacement needs in all of our school buildings as identified by our mandated building condition survey conducted in 2015-16. And then finally, our goal was to have a construction of a new high school cafeteria to help better accommodate our student building needs, repurpose the existing one to potentially have it for possibly offering some C-Tech classes here, and that's really what our focus was in this project. Where did this all come from? This all came from the information that was handed out to our community all those years ago. So let's talk a little bit about the New York State Education Department, or NYSED, approval process. So how does it work? First, as we said, the district develops all the architectural design and scope of the work from its licensed architects. They help put all the technical drawings together. Everything is done. Then what happens is it has to be submitted to NYSED's Facility Planning Division for their reviews. There's 3 reviews that take place for each of the projects you submit. An architectural review, an engineering review, and then there's the finance review as well. All of that has to be reviewed. Once that is done and they've reviewed everything and they've approved everything, what typically happens, they'll come back to the architects and say, hey, we have questions on this drawing. You need to make some changes here. They'll come back with the engineering. You may have some changes to make there based on SED rules. And then finally, they review the financial piece of it to make sure that it fits with what the scope of the work is. Once that's done, SED will then issue a building permit to the school district to start the work. Then what happens is the district can then finally take all of the construction documents, put it together, and put it out to bid. It's typically the lowest responsible bidder who wins that, and there's a whole prescribed process in how the bids are opened. People have the right to be there to see the bid openings, and then go through all of the information. And then once that's done, we then interview all of the construction people who are going to be working on the project to make sure they can handle the work, and then we begin that construction process. How does it work for final submission of the final submission process? Well, first, we have to complete all of the construction, and then we submit to New York State a certificate of substantial completion. Once we issue that, they review that, then the State Education Department will issue us a CO, or a certificate of occupancy. Once that's done, we are then required to submit the final cost reports to the State Education Department for financial review. So they're going to take all of our final cost reports, everything that was done. They have their own financial people review that entire set of documents, and once that's done and they're comfortable with everything, they then will then issue us, the state aid will start to flow over the period of time that we're designated to receive it for. So let's talk about the work that's been done across our district buildings. So in the elementary and intermediate school, the covered work in this project was a number of different things. First, the vinyl asbestos tile in the A&D wings. What are the A&D wings? That's the original parts of the building, the 1957 part of the building. So all of the classrooms had vinyl asbestos tiling. So all of that was removed, all the abatement was done, new floors were put in, and any upgrades that had to happen during that process was taken care of. We then replaced the exterior, the original slate tile. The original slate tile had an R value of 0. So not a very efficient way, but again, back in 1957 when the building was designed, best thoughts at that time. So what did we end up doing? We replaced that all, removed all the slate tile off the buildings, took 2 summers to do it, and then we put in efficient insulated panels. We also had to replace the booster pump. What's the booster pump? That helps move the water from the water tower into the building. If you notice, the water tower is pretty much on the same level as the intermediate elementary building. Not enough pressure to move the water at the level it needs to be moved at, so what do? You add a booster pump to move the water. Next, we replaced the retaining wall out back along with the steps, the ramp, and that was almost falling down, and we needed to do all that. We repaved a ton of the parking areas, play surfaces, and walkways. So if you go over by the back of the intermediate school, you'll see the basketball courts there. That whole thing was completely redone. All the walkways leading up to it was done. The driveway and stuff out in front of that was done. Next, we refinished the stage and gym floors. And you can see most noticeably in the A gym, definitely needed to be refurbished there. And again, one of the nice things about our gyms, from November until beginning of April, our gyms are used pretty much every single night. We're happy to have our youth sports in there: soccer, football, wrestling, cheerleading, baseball, all come in to use our gyms every night. 5 nights a week, the gyms are full. So the floors get used. Next, the JV and varsity softball dugouts were replaced as well. We did the replacement of the original A-gym bleachers, the ones from 1957. They just didn't function anymore. You couldn't pull them out anymore, didn't have the ability to sit on them. So we replaced those. And then there was a ton of electrical work done, panels and everything, and emergency lighting upgrades. Next, Otisville, one of our newer facilities, not as much work needed to be done there. So Otisville, we had HVAC work done in the main office, some various controls for that HVAC work, with some masonry work, some gym lighting as well. Middle school, what was the covered work here? We did the modernization of the elevator. Again, a booster pump replacement. Vinyl tiles for floor replacements. We replaced 2 of the original boilers with 2 high efficiency boilers as well. Gym lighting upgrade, we replaced replacement of 2 door hardware units for ADA compliance. We had univentilators all over the building replaced. The JV baseball dugouts were replaced. And then by the 6th grade wing, you can see the sidewalk and that ramp area was replaced there. High school, a lot more work done here, a lot of facilities at the high school. First and foremost, the pool dehumidification system was replaced. Very comfortable in the pool. I can tell you prior to that happening, a little more difficult to sit in the pool area. The pool lighting, we replaced the original sodium lights, which were not very energy efficient, and we put in place all new LED lights. the ones on the wall, the tube lighting across the pool, and then if you go into the stands, we have put in the lights there as well. There was replacement of locker room floors, bathrooms, electronic control replacements across the building, mechanical upgrades, including univentilator replacements there as well. I would tell you one of the years that we were doing all this mechanical work, I would tell you that Friday I walked in before school opened, never thought the building would be able to open, and I would tell you, the contractors we had promised us, they said, you're gonna see a very big difference on Tuesday morning when you come in. It was as if they were never there. It was incredible, the work that they had done. Drainage work around the high school, sidewalk and wall replacement, paving work at the high school, exterior lighting at the high school, and then reconstruction of the track. If you were to take a look at the track a few years ago before we had done the work, there's a life expectancy of the track. You could actually walk over and probably pull a little bit of the piece of the rubber track up. And that was the work that needed to be done. Along with that, on the track, drainage issues happened. So we were dealing with all of the drainage of the track as well. And then we had to reconstruct the track bleacher wall on the home side of the field. That was done. Drainage work at the soccer and lacrosse field was done. And then, as I said, drainage work around the track. Our maintenance facility, that's the building across the street. All right, the paving over there was in horrific condition and needed to be replaced, so we repaved the entire facility over there. And then we were talking about doing a potential bathroom over there. There is no bathroom over there. Unfortunately, as we started to get into looking at what the possibility was, we were not able to get the area to perk, which was a problem. The only other option at that time was looking at potentially putting in what they call a turkey hill. But the cost was prohibitive. And so we decided not to do that part of the project. Bus garage, again, newer facility. We needed a new water tank. We had some piping replacement and a heat exchanger over there. Next, this is where post-COVID happened. Most of the work you saw in those buildings was completed prior to COVID. We were in a pretty good position with our budget and what we were doing. COVID happened in March of 2020. Literally, everything shut down. And as it started to open back up in late 2020, 2021, our architects, rightfully so, sat us down and said, we need to have a conversation because what we're seeing right now is major supply chain disruptions, major cost increases to construction materials, labor cost is up. This is possibly going to be a much more expensive project than what we had budgeted for in 2016. Who could have predicted COVID? Who could have predicted the changes in the world? Just to give you some numbers, from March of 2020 through 2025, non-residential construction material costs are up 43%. CPI from 2021 to 2025 is up 26%. None of those costs have come down. We're all, many of us here are homeowners, so if you can hold questions till the end.
What's CPI, please?
Oh, sorry, Consumer Price Index?
Thank you.
Yep. So prices are just up, and it's what we had to deal with. If you remember walking in 2021 or 2022 into Lowe's or Home Depot looking for some supplies, not a lot there, and the cost was significantly higher. So our wastewater treatment facility, no difference in what we were experiencing and the rest of the country was experiencing. They recommended putting the cafeteria on hold. We were in the process of designing it. They recommended putting it on hold because they were quite concerned about what the costs were probably going to be going forward in constructing this facility. So we decided we were going to move ahead much more quickly with our wastewater treatment facility and the conversion of our old facility. So the new treatment facility is approximately 40% larger. We have the ability in the summertime to shut it down for a bit on one side so that we can do maintenance. The current building, we were not able to shut that facility down. It was built for the size that we needed with no ability to shut down. This facility was built thinking ahead, trying to make sure we aren't going to have to build another facility 25 years later. So that's the building that we're dealing with. And one of the nice things about our old plant, once it was done, we were able to move forward with the project, which was our plans to actually convert that into a B&G storage facility. For some of you who've been here for a long, long time, you'll know the maintenance facility across the street many, many years ago burned down. The facility we built of what the insurance recovery was and what we could build was much smaller. So we have equipment outside, doesn't last as long because we just can't fit everything into that building. This is going to change that for us. So what else did we move forward with? We moved forward with the high school cardio room and weight room. What we're going to do there, we're going to demolish the existing storage room, construct a new facility, 23 pieces of equipment in there for students to use, additions of television and rigged up in the room for instruction, and we air condition the facility. The weight room, same thing, replace the existing flooring, added air conditioning, new paint on the walls and ceiling, and purchased all new weight equipment for the kids. So those are 2 teaching stations that receive very good state aid because they're teaching stations. What's left that we're also working on still? The high school electrical work and storage room, okay? So what we have here, the electrical work is still being done. Our hope was to do it last summer. Unfortunately, at the point in time as we were submitting this project to state ed, we had to change our timeline a little bit because of the lead time of equipment. We were replacing the original 1974 switchgear. The lead time on that was 60 weeks. So we had to move that to this summer because we just would not have enough time to get the materials in to do the job. So all of that work is being done. We're replacing the original switchgear, we're replacing the existing transformer, replacing the electrical line from the pole to the transformer, and there's now additional work because we had to replace the original electrical boxes there and the main feed line coming in from O&R. We also are now required by O&R to bury most of the line coming into the district. So even that scope of the project has changed because of the requirements from Orange and Rockland. Our storage room was just create a large open storage room and have similar square footage to what we had before where we put the cardio room. Now, because we've made a decision, I'll go over the decision about the cafeteria in a couple of minutes, but I want to talk about one more project that we're doing. And we've submitted to SED, we've had approval for it, and it's going to be the full replacement of the roof over the entire ESIS cafeteria. One of the things that was in our building condition survey was a potential replacement of that part of the roof. We've been working on that intermediate school and elementary school roof for a period of time. It has to be replaced, and there's more parts of it that are going to have to be replaced. But our feeling is getting this done for our kids is definitely more important. And then, unfortunately, the 2 generators that we have at the high school, one is completely done, and one, Mr. Tranchina, is kind of limping it to the finish line till we get this other generator in place. That's the remaining projects left. So I want to talk a little bit about the high school cafeteria. The proposed cafeteria, as I said, was originally designed to address capacity needs to improve the student dining experience. We were in the planning of the project prior to COVID-19. Once COVID-19 happened, we kind of had to stop everything because of what we were hearing from the architects and what they were seeing across the industry and what was happening to prices for materials, labor, technology, all of it. All of these costs were up significantly. The other part of the problem we had was difficulty in obtaining essential materials like the HVAC systems, the technology components, and construction supplies. All of that was much more money and took much more time to come in. Labor challenges. There was a shortage at the time of skilled trades affecting the construction timeline. The updated project estimates of this particular project was significantly higher. A lot of construction material with it, and a lot of technology, HVAC equipment, kitchen equipment, all of that. Enrollment trends, just to give you an idea, these numbers here are from 2016 to 2021. So our population of high school was actually down by 2021 by 170 students. Overall in the district by 2021, we were down 350 students. Where are we right now in 2026? High school is closer to 240 students less than where we were back in 2016. We're about 371 students lighter in the district now in 2026. We recommissioned a new demographic study. The good news for us versus a lot of other districts are looking at even greater losses of population. Minisink Valley is going to pretty much hold right where we are for probably the next 10 years. Fluctuation of maybe plus 100 or minus 100 students over the 10 years. So we made the decision at that point in time, and I'll show you why. So if you take a look right now, Otisville, what did we spend at Otisville so far, and what do we have in the project? $649,000. ES and IS, about $4.8 million. The middle school, about $4.4 million. The high school right now, we've spent about $11 million on the high school. The maintenance facility, for all the paving, $466,000. Bus garage, about $159,000 for that. Currently, the wastewater treatment facility is $6.2 million. What was the original budget for that, of what they projected in 2016? All in, including the renovation of the other facility, was $4.1 million on the high end. And I'll get to the next slide in a second. That project was significantly more expensive, but it is part of the project that has to get done or the campus cannot run. Our former wastewater treatment facility right now, we're still in the phase of completing that. We've only spent about $68,000. What's left? The high school electrical work that we have to do, we have about $1.1 million worth of work we have to do in the high school on replacing the transformer, the lines, the electrical lines, the switchgear. Yes, that price was higher than what it was projected in 2016. The ES and IS roof and high school generator, the roof is probably about $800,000 worth of work. The generator and all the electrical work, probably around $1 million to $1.1 million. That's going to fluctuate. We'll see how it comes in the end. The former wastewater treatment facility, what was supposed to be only a couple $100,000, is about $1 million to renovate and fix that entire facility. So what's the work that we have remaining left? About $4.1 million left. Previous subtotal, as you saw on the previous slide, our total committed right now is approximately $32 million. Our authorization, including the capital reserve, was $36,935,000. What does that mean? At this time, the district is closing out the project because we have to finish by February of 2017. It means the district is most likely not going to borrow what you see up here, about $4.8 million. Hold on, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Wither. I know you wanted that.
But just one caveat, we are gonna try and find other work that we can get done that will be really insignificant compared to this, but don't focus on that 4.8, it might be a little bit less than that.
Yeah. But again, what governed all of this? It was our building condition survey from 2015 to 2016. That's where we are in the project. We have a lot of work this summer. What I will tell you is probably by October, November, I'll be back up again and kind of presenting the closeout of the project, because that's when we think we should have everything finished by and our final cost reports being submitted. But that's where we are in the project. So, from the board, are there any questions for me from the board?
The only thing I want to say
Yes.
is that you said the capital project had to be done by February 2017.
27.
2017, it's 2027.
2027, yeah, 10 years from the time we do the vote. So February 6th, midnight, 2027, we're done.
How much did they project the cafeteria would cost?
Originally, it was about $10.1 million, okay? Based on what they were seeing in the numbers, I would say you would need easily another $4 to $5 million based on what the construction materials costs were going to be.
So
We're,
15 million.
you would have to have probably, I would say 15 would be tight, just because what we were seeing at that time with delays of equipment, the supply chain and everything, all of that, labor costs and everything, it was just up significantly. When the numbers came in for the wastewater treatment facility, you're at mercy there, because we put that to the state in 2021, we got everything back from them, we put it out to bid, and the numbers just came in significantly higher. And again, you know, there were other things that happened when we were building that facility as well. One of the things that happened, we had a lot of groundwater there, so there was some remediation work, as you remember, we brought up to all you that we had to do in order to address that particular piece as well. So didn't count on having to put in, you know, an extra couple feet of stone and the geogrid and all the other stuff that has to happen. But in order to make that facility work, that's what we needed to do. Mr. Monaco.
Mr. Monahan, sir. So that number that the architects at the time budgeted, that number, did that include potentially the renovation of the old cafeteria?
I believe it included that as well.
Okay, but that would be another piece of the
Another piece of the
project.
pie. I think as you saw, like the wastewater treatment facility and then the conversion of the other one,
Exactly.
they were looking at maybe a couple $100,000 to do that, significantly higher.
I just have a question in terms of state aid coming back. I know that
Yes.
we borrowed the 36 million, but we get.
Well, we're not gonna borrow 36 million.
Yeah, no, whatever we end up borrowing,
Yeah.
sorry, my apologies.
That's okay.
It matters. But, so we get some state aid back, and we'll get, like, what do we get for a classroom versus a non-classroom? Does that break
Here's
down our?
here's what
total?
the average is. I would tell you, and Mr. Wither, you can jump and tell me if I'm wrong here.
What was that question?
The average on state aid, and I can only do an average because each one is different, the whole project, we average about 70 to 75% of state aid on a project. So, you know, the overall cost, and it's typically over a 15-year period, because that's what typically the loans are for from SED, and how they structure it. So our projects typically are about 70 to 75% of what we are gonna pay, we'll get back in state aid.
Thank you.
Any other board members?
Covered it.
All right. All right, thank you, everybody. You can get back to your seats.
Mr. Monahan.
Just give me a second to reorganize here.
But thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
I am ready. So next on the agenda is two motions. They kind of go together. First of all, the approval of severability with our legal counsel. We're going to readjust our legal counsel. So rather than reading this incredibly long motion, I'd ask for a motion to approve the attached motion severing our relationship with Sean Perlson for one particular area of law, which would be special education.
So moved, Ruth Lewis. Second, Mallory Orman.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Next, this is a little shorter, I'll read this one for you. This is approval of an agreement and addendum to retainer agreement for Keenan Bean PC and Shaw Perlson, May and Lambert LLP. Be it resolved that the board hereby authorizes its president to sign an engagement letter to be submitted by the law firm of Keenan Bean PC for the provision of certain special education legal services by Michael Lambert Esquire during the months of April through June 2026. Be it further resolved that the board hereby authorizes its president to execute an addendum to the retainer agreement with Shaw Perlson, May and Lambert LLP to adjust for the reduced services in special education and pupil personnel services for the months of April through June 2026, as presented at this meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Patty Reynolds. Second. Vanessa.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Next, I have approval of settlement agreement and release. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves the terms and authorizes the superintendent of schools to execute a settlement agreement and general release between the district and employees number 0326222026 and 0326202661 dated February 27, 2026 in lieu of commencing New York State Civil Service Law, Section 75 proceedings against the employees. A copy of said settlement agreements shall be incorporated by reference within the minutes of this meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second, Ruth Lewis.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Next, approval of voter personnel. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent, approves the list of names for chief inspectors, and assistant clerk for election district 1 and election district 2 for the May 19, 2026 annual budget vote and election. The district clerk is authorized to contact eligible persons as needed to assist with the vote. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Kathy DeRose. Second, Mallory Norman.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I just have a comment.
Yes.
I have a comment. I like to thank all those people that do that, and Ms. Mulner, I know coordinates all that. That is a super long day from like 5 a.m. to whenever it's done. I did that all in favor. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Next and final on my list is the approval of machine operators and election inspectors. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent, approves Bonnie Urbanski, Lolita White, Mary Jo Wagner, and Marina Kramer for training on voting machines for up to 2 hours on the date to be determined in April or May as election inspectors, machine operators for the annual budget and election vote on May 19, 2026. The district clerk is authorized to contact eligible persons as needed to assist with the vote. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Scott Hines.
Second, Kathy DeRose.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Monahan. We're going to move on to Human Resources section with Mr. Giardino.
Thank you, Mr. Monaco. We have a motion to approve the resignation, leave of absence, and appointments as listed.
So moved, Kathy DeRose. Second, Patty Reynolds.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giardino. We're going to move on to the pupil personnel with Mr. Fitton.
Thank you, Mr. Monaco. Good evening. Please refer to the executive summary on board docs. The Committee on Preschool Special Education met on 6 days in March. 26 students were reviewed. I ask for a motion to approve the arrangements of the recommended placements by the Committee on Preschool Special Education as presented.
So moved, Mallory Norman. Second, Kathy DeRose.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
The Committee on Special Education met on 12 days in March. 178 students were reviewed. I ask for a motion to approve the arrangements of the recommended placements by the Committee on Special Education as presented.
So moved, Patty Reynolds.
Second, Scott Hines.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Fitton. We'll now move on to the business section with Mr. Witherow.
Thank you, Mr. Monaco. The first item we have is a health services contract. Be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent, approves the health services contract for the Middletown City School District for the 25-26 school year, the amount of $53,603.38 for 37 students.
So moved, Lewis.
Second, Scott Hines.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Next item is acceptance of the revenue report for February 2026. Be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent, acknowledges receipt of the revenue report for the period ending February 2026.
So moved, Lewis. Second, Patty Reynolds.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Next item is approval of warrants. Be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent, accepts the claims auditor's report for the following warrants as attached.
So moved, Lewis.
Second, Scott Hines.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Next item is February 2026 Treasurer's Report. Be it resolved, the Board of Education, upon recommendation of the superintendent, acknowledges receipt of the Treasurer's Report for the month of February 2026.
So moved, Patty Reynolds. Second, Mallory Norman.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Next item is approval of the federal single audit report for the year ended June 30th, 2025. Be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon a recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, accepts and files the 24-25 Federal Single Audit Report from Newton Hauser, PC.
So moved, Ruth Lewis.
Second, Kathy DeRose.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Next item is a approval proposal to handle the bus garage boiler replacement. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby accepts the letter of proposal from Lobella Associates, DPC, dated March 12, 2026, for architectural engineering services in connection with the emergency bus garage boiler replacement project as presented to the board at this meeting, which proposal is incorporated by reference within the minutes of this meeting, and be it further resolved, the board president is authorized to execute an agreement with Lobella Associates, DPC, for such architectural engineering services upon approval of the same by the school attorney.
So moved, Ruth Lewis.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you.
Monica.
Thank you, Mr. Witherow. We're gonna move on to the report section, and up first is gonna be the Finance Committee with Ms. Reynolds.
Well, tonight's finance committee meeting went a little bit longer than they have been, but that's because we covered what would be considered the bulk of our budget. It's about 76% of our budget, which was our salaries, our benefits, and our transportation. There was a lot of tightening up of numbers done this week, which was good to see. All of our finance meetings have been recorded and are put on YouTube, posted on the website, and I definitely recommend everybody take a peek, because we talked a little bit about the tax cap, we talked about budget increase versus tax levy increase, which those are two different things. Just because our budget increases and just because our levy increases doesn't necessarily mean that your individual tax bills will increase. And we're actually feeling pretty good about the budget this year, but there's more information to come, so I just recommend everybody go on the website, and if anybody has any questions related to the budget, or you want to add something, don't you?
Budget questions.
Yeah, budget questions at minisink.com. Patrick is very proud of that email address. And keep your eye out. All of our past presentations are on the website. And any further presentations will be posted on the website. And we'll be having a budget newsletter and a budget hearing. So please stay informed, and more information to come.
Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. Any questions or comments for Ms. Reynolds? I just have a comment. I want to, again, thank the committee for doing all the work that they do, because that is hours and hours and hours, and we're very lucky to have all of you, and including the whole board, but that is a tough job. We're going to now move on to we're going to move on to Dr. Hines and the Policy Committee.
Coming down.
All right, so on March 16th, we had a policy committee meeting. Many of the policies that we reviewed were reviewed in order to either make them compliant with newer changes to the state law, but also to meet our goal of reviewing and revising our entire policy manual within the next 3 years. But there are 3 policies I want to call out because there was some discussion. So the first is graduation attire. So the policy committee was very much in favor of allowing our seniors who are graduating to adorn their caps. We are just in the process of working through some language around what should be allowed, what shouldn't be allowed on the caps. So we're gonna have another policy committee meeting in about a month or so, a month and a half, and we'll finalize that, but you can plan on having your caps adorned. So that was something that was brought to our attention by the students, and just want to say that I really appreciate the fact that the students were advocating for themselves and were asking for this, and that's why this happened, was because of the advocacy from the student body and the 2 student representatives on this board, so thank you for that. And then there were 2 policies that were asked to be reviewed by the board. One was the conference travel reimbursement policy, and one was the reimbursement for meals and refreshment policy. We would like the board to take a look at those and provide some feedback to myself and the rest of the committee before the next meeting so that we could address any suggestions that the board would have on those. And that's all. Any questions?
Is that gonna be shared with us, or do we have to go look for them?
I thought we were gonna put them in the board.
They were in the
Were they?
paper.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Hines. Any other questions or comments for Dr. Hines? Alrighty, now we're gonna go to the student representative report with Ms. Day and Ms. Greenberg. And I think we're gonna,
Do you want to do the presentation first, or do you want to talk about events first? We can do events first. Yeah, let's do events first, and then we'll end with the presentation. Okay, hi. So there's not a lot going on in the future because we have a meeting basically like right after spring break. So there's nothing really that's going on before our next meeting. But there were a lot of things that happened between the previous one and this one. Firstly, the 14th was the project graduation tricky tray. It was a really big success. I'm pretty sure they made like at least $1,000 off of the 50-50 alone, which is just really great. For those of you who don't know, project graduation is the overnight party that's held the night of graduation for all of the high schoolers. They bring in like a hypnotist, they have a bunch of snacks. I've heard it's a really great time. I'm looking forward to going this year. The 19th was the senior citizen dinner ran by NHS. So it was a mandatory event for all NHS attendees. There were over 200 senior citizens from like different organizations that attended. They had a great time with the food and then the show after. Transitioning to that, the 19th through the 21st was the high school production of Spam-A-Lot. We're very grateful for all of those who were able to attend. We had a really great turnout and everybody said it was really great, and we were just really glad to put that on for you guys. And we're thankful for you supporting the arts and helping us build up the high school auditorium with all of the new technology. The 24th was 2 field trips actually in the high school. The first was for the super psychology and film class. Went to go see the movie Project Hail Mary, and we analyzed the cinematography and the directors. And it was just a really fun experience, and it's really great that we offer like, you know, diverse stuff like that. And then the same day, the art club went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I have a friend in art club. She said it was a great time. It's really great to, you know, see all of like the cool diverse art and stuff. And then, oh yeah, so there were 4 yearbook students featured in Walsworth's like end of the year collaboration. 2 graduated last year, Aislinn Struble and Charlene Bargan Lara. And then 2 are seniors this year, Syasa Mathis and Ella Mikulich, who's actually right in the audience right there, by the way. So congrats to you. We had 7 winter sports teams recognized for the Scholar Athlete Award. 4 Key Club members were honored at the New York State Leadership Training Conference. 2 seniors, 1 sophomore, and 1 junior. And then Daniel Owenko was actually elected Lieutenant Governor for District 13 for next year at Key Club. And the last thing is, this is really great news. The middle school is actually adapting a National Junior Honor Society chapter for next year, which I feel is a really, really great opportunity. And I have a couple cousins in the middle school who are really looking forward to that for next year. And that's it. Thank you.
And just to add on to everything Heather said, there was also on Monday, there was an assembly for our sophomores and juniors in the high school from Jordan Toma, and he spoke about, his presentation was called My Life with an IEP, and he spoke about his experience going through high school and struggling in school, and he was encouraging all the students to push past any adversity that they might face and recognize and accept the support of those around them, that our family members and our teachers and everyone is really looking out for you and looking for the, like, trying to get you to the best place that you can be. So really accepting that support was one of his big messages. And now we have our presentation. So I mentioned at the last meeting that we had been working on surveys. Let's come up. If you'd like to come sit down in the seats over here, you can see it. So I mentioned at the last meeting that.
Oh, you need go-karts.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So I mentioned at the last meeting that we have been working on surveys in the high school. We wanted to just get kind of a feel for how the students are feeling about this year. So working with the student council in the high school, which is an elected representative from each history class. So we worked with them and Mr. Clemenson, who's their advisor, and we put together a survey that actually I can share to you to send out to the board in the board report, just to get a feel of how the students were liking the year, what they were liking, what they weren't liking, all those kinds of things. So starting putting it together.
One thing, we had a really great turnout for it. We had, how many was it? 811 responses, and there's about like 1,200, 1,300 kids in the high school. And it was just really great seeing like how many people really wanted to give feedback about the school. And I think it was great like helping that to get them more involved with communicating with the board, because a lot of kids don't really know like what's really going on because they're kind of wrapped up in their own life. So just by having a short little 5-minute survey in, you know, their history class, I feel like really helped, you know, create like a collaborative effort across a school that's normally pretty just like, you know, divided.
A lot of students, especially like my class included, didn't know that we even have student representatives on the board. So the history teachers were able to give a little bit of information of how the board operates and everything, and that we now have student members, and that they can come to board meetings and sit and see what the board does. So this is our little chart of how the response is. So we had about 64% of our students, so it was just a checkbox of all of those things listed at the bottom. They were prompted, just check the box if you're happy with it, and then there was a box at the bottom that they could put any feedback they have about things that they liked. So about 64% of our students said that they love our athletics here. A lot of them mentioned in their comments that they love using the new cardio room and the new weight room during phys ed, that they're getting to learn a lot more about how to move their bodies rather than just playing basketball or badminton, which are great for building teamwork skills, but individual fitness is also another thing that they need to learn as well. So we had about 54% of our students said they love our course selections here, that they're happy with the way that they get to choose what classes they're taking. We had about 50% of our students say that they're happy with our food service, the lunch and breakfast included in that. About 33% of our students said they're happy with our music and arts programs, and I think that's kind of representative also of how many students are involved in those programs, because there is like some students that have never taken a music class or have taken one art class to get the credit through. So a lot of them aren't super involved in it, but those that are seem to be enjoying it. We had about 44% of our students said they love our clubs that we offer at the high school, and they love the variety of clubs that they can join. So there's things from community service to fundraising to business to even just writing like the school newspaper that we have in the high school, or archaeology club where they get to go metal detecting and do all that kind of stuff. We had 31% of our students happy with our transportation, 25% of our students happy with the facilities and resources we have available, and a lot of them that checked off that box also made mention to our school counselors and social workers of how great of a job they're doing. We had about 8% of our students mention that they're happy with our school policies. However, and I will add a note to this, a lot of them did not realize that the phone policy is a state law, not a Board of Ed policy. So that may be why a lot of them noted that as well. And we also had another approximately 11% mention that there was something else that they were happy with, and a lot of students mentioned their teachers. There were some individual call outs to teachers, but overall just they're very happy with the teachers that we have in the high school. So this was our breakdown of student feedback.
All right, so I've got food services. So out of all of the topics, I'd say food services was definitely one of the biggest ones that people wanted to see improvement with. They were generally like happy with like the baseline. We've got a lot of things available in the high school and we're really grateful for it. But some kids just wanted to see like a couple like small improvements. The biggest one I saw was they offer milk as like a drink that you can get with lunch. But to get like a bottle of water, you have to pay for it. So what they were thinking was have milk as an option, but also have like small water bottles as a possible option, because a lot of kids are like lactose intolerant. They have, you know, restrictions like that. So they felt like it would be nice to have, you know, the option of either having the milk or the water free with lunch, or just included with it in case we go back to, you know, lunch not being included. Also, along with that, there used to be, last year, there were juice boxes that you could have instead of a fruit. A lot of kids wanted that back. I actually talked about this at lunch committee, and they said that having the juice during 2 parts of the day was too challenging because it's like too much sugar. So kids were like saying possibly having it moved from breakfast to lunch, having the juice as an option. Segueing with that, a lot of kids wanted more accessibility to breakfast. It's a difficult balance in the high school because period 1 has to start at some point, but at the same point, kids want to be able to get breakfast. So it's tricky. I'm not really sure how we'd work that out, but that was a big thing that they wanted. They wanted to be able to grab and go like lunch during, if they didn't have like, if they just had like a study hall or like something like that, they wanted to have like a quick accessible option that they could just grab and like leave the cafeteria with. And then they wanted to be able to, I don't know why they took them away, I'm guessing somebody did something silly, but the toaster's back. So there used to be a toaster at the end that you could put bagels through. I don't know if a kid put like a plastic fork in it or something, but they're gone now. So we can't toast our bagels, and they wanted to toast their bagels. So, and kids wanted to be able to use outdoor spaces during lunch, especially the like courtyard that's in the middle of there. But after talking with Mr. Monahan, we realized, oh wait, there's classrooms all around. And what are we during lunch? Loud. So we can't do that. But it was a good idea, and like segueing with the possibility of like in sometime in the future with a capital project with the cafeteria being on the end of the building, letting students out by the back there under some supervision. But let's wait for the future.
Okay, so the next topic that we had a lot of feedback on was our course selections. So students are relatively happy with what we offer, but there is a fair amount of students that were looking for more AP or college classes to get more credits in high school, that when they go to college, they have the opportunity to transfer those credits and use them to potentially accelerate their graduation or anything like that. There was also a lot of students that were looking for science electives. So we have electives in English and in history, not a lot of math because most people are not math people, but science was something that they were looking for another elective in, something more to dive into another, maybe a more niche field of science, rather than just the general sciences that they take for the regents. There was also a lot of students that mentioned home economics courses, so similar to the facts classes in the middle school, similar to some of the things that are available at CTEC, but being able to do them here rather than if they were to go to CTEC, they have to give up about half of their day, 4 to 5 periods sometimes, depending on which part of the day they go. They may have to give up more of their class time at school, so they want to make sure that they can still learn these things, that they're interested in it, but they don't think they want to give up their whole day to go to CTEC to learn those things. And there was also another option for a foreign language. Students are looking into, are interested in learning American Sign Language as a foreign language, and I understand that that is another teacher that has to be qualified in it to teach it and all of those things that come with that. But that is something that students are interested in. They think it's almost more universal than some other foreign languages because they can use it to communicate with other people even if they don't speak, if they don't speak English, they don't speak Spanish, but they understand sign language, or if they have a hearing impairment, things like that. So that was our courses. Athletics, we did have, as much as our students love our athletics programs here, there's definitely some things that they were looking for. They're very interested in, now that we have the weight room and cardio room, being able to use it before, after school, under supervision, kind of similar to how we operate community swim with the pool, that they would get to use those facilities for the same training that they would do at a gym, but without needing to pay for a membership. There's also a lot of interest in putting in a turf field. A lot of students are looking for that. And I also want to mention that this has been mentioned to me about the field, that we are currently one of 3 schools in Section 9 without a turf field. It's us, Valley Central, and Warwick that do not have turf fields for their sports teams to play on. And a lot of teams currently and in the fall season that use the varsity soccer and lacrosse field specifically have had issues with drainage, that they've had to have games moved to alternate facilities, practices moved because our fields are not playable. So they're very interested in being able to have home games truly here without the conflict of having poor field conditions. And then there was also a lot of students that were looking for publicity for all of our, oh, did I click it? I don't know, it's still here. There a lot of students that wanted publicity for all of our sports, so a lot of them only hear about our football and our wrestling and our track teams, but they also want to hear more about some of our other sports that are still doing just as well. I believe so. Oh, I have. No, you've got clubs. Okay. Sorry, it's a lot of me talking right now. So, a lot of clubs are looking into using social media to promote their events, meetings, and projects. And a couple months ago, probably December, all of the club advisors received an email from Mr. Hauk saying that they are not allowed to use their own personal social media or club-run social media accounts to promote their events, meetings, projects, etc. So a lot of them have now shifted over to sending everything to Mrs. Chris to get it out on the district Facebook page. However, some clubs feel that they're not getting their message out soon enough, and they're not getting enough traction to their events, their fundraisers, all of that. So that was, I know we discussed it with Mr. Monahan, that there's policies that go into that of how to do it properly, because the school is ultimately accountable for it if their name is on what it's used for. So that's just something that students are they're thinking about, that they would like to potentially see a change in. And there was also some interest in starting back up the JROTC program at the high school. I understand that that again is bringing another person in that's trained for that position, but a lot of students are looking into that as a good leadership opportunity. Even if they're not interested in any sort of military service, they think it would be a good opportunity to have here at the school.
Okay, music and arts. So one big thing that we saw was people wanted more opportunities for like art students, like physical art, so like drawing, painting, mixed media, stuff like that, to showcase their work. So we do have like an art show that's in like the end of May, I think, and it's normally like a big hit. Like there are a lot of people that come out to support it, but a lot of people wanted it to be showcased more towards the beginning of the year to kind of like bookend it. But you know, we'll see. And then one big thing was a lot of people, this is like more niche, but they wanted more advertisement about the high school drama club and the work that they do in other buildings as well. Because the drama club does have members that work with the Otisville School, the middle school, and the biggest one is the intermediate school production. So they just wanted a bit more like publicity about that, you know, being posted about it on the website. And then just a lot of students were wanted to know when productions were happening more, get advertisements for that out more recently. And so I'm probably gonna talk about that with the drama directors because, you know, I guess that's my thing, but just, you know, make you guys aware. And there were a couple just random categories. A lot of people wanted more school spirit-y events, because at the beginning of the year it's school spirit, pep rally, spirit week, homecoming, and then it kind of lulls out for a bit. We did run a winter spirit week this year that was pretty successful, but it kind of dries out in the spring, so that students are kind of looking just for something in the spring to kind of pizzazz up the dryness of oh no, spring break's over and now we have a month and a half before Regents exams. So I think that would, you know, add some school spirit, and you know, it's just great to see people, you know, dressed up and having fun, you know, all around the year, not just at the beginning or the end. And then another thing was a senior walk through the elementary school. So it would be the seniors would go to the elementary school and kind of walk through. It'd be
whichever elementary school they attended.
That they attended.
If they attended one here, they could go back to see their former teachers and the students that will, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, the students that will eventually be in their shoes years later.
And then another big thing, obviously, was being able to decorate graduation caps. It's really great news. I went to policy committee a couple weeks ago, and the students are very excited. We've been spreading the word. They're really happy about it and just really looking forward to expressing themselves at graduation. And the last thing was juniors wanted more parking. The only issue is, well, the big issue is that there's no more parking spots for them to go to. We can't just pave a lot over the tennis courts, which is what a lot, they were like, oh, just get rid of the tennis courts and make it more parking. And I was like, yeah, we can't do that. But it was just, that was like a big thing, but it's really not plausible right now. But just wanted to let you guys know that that was a big thing that people wanted.
So we'd like to thank you so much for allowing us to do this survey, as well as being able to present all of our feedback with you. And we would also like to mention that since we were so successful in the high school of getting all of this feedback, that we will hopefully try to adjust what we ask and bring it down to the middle school and potentially the elementary and intermediate schools as well. So, thank you so much. Any questions?
Just a comment. Thank you for all of your hard work on this. We truly appreciate it. I know you've already started to have some conversations with Mr. Hauck with some of the things there. I think it's great that you're doing this, and it gives us an opportunity to take a look at things and evaluate some things from student perspective. And there may be some things here that we can work. But a lot of the food service items, it's great for a agenda for our menu advisory committee and some things that we can discuss there. So I think we have a lot of avenues to take a look at all of these different things and see what we do. Junior parking may be a little bit difficult. I don't know if there's any other place to start paving, so.
There's always the tennis courts.
So the two of you, thank you very much for all the work.
Thank you.
We're going to send it to you to the board. Yes, I want to.
Okay.
Again, thank you, Ms. Day, Ms. Greenberg. That was awesome. We'll move on to our district comments and events period. Would anyone like to start it? Anyone? Vanessa.
I only went to one, but I went to it 4 times, which was the drama club at high school last week. It was amazing. I wrote an email thanking the director and all her directors for all the hours they put in. I know they put in so much time because I saw the students putting in all the time, and it was a lot of time, a lot of hard work. But all that work they put into our kids, I said it just every star was shining on that stage, and it just reflected all the amount of time that these people put into our children. So I'm very thankful for that, that we have this opportunity, and all the improvements just amplified the greatness on that stage. So kudos to our drama club and all the music teachers and tech teachers and costuming and music and everything. It was just amazing.
Awesome. Anyone else down here?
Yeah, I'd like to also say I was at Spamalot so one night, and as someone who grew up as a Monty Python fan, they did justice to the whole idea of Monty Python. I mean, they hit all the lines. I was saying them, my daughter was with me and she was getting mad at me, but and I do have to say that the talent that we have here is amazing, because there were so many different students that had different roles with their singing and their dancing and their acting, and everyone was great. The colors on the stage were amazing, and all the new tech stuff that we have. I think that the actors, the students appreciated that. I've seen a lot of plays here, and this one was just awesome with all this new equipment. And I think, just like you get new football helmets and new singlets for the wrestling team and the baseball uniforms, when you could get that type of equipment and give it to these kids with this talent, it makes them feel better, and makes the show a lot better. So kudos to everybody that was involved. It was an awesome show.
I'll just stick with Spamalot first. It was fabulous. I think it was probably hands down the funniest high school show I've ever seen. As a history teacher, I loved it. I was like, can we go on a field trip to learn about medieval times? It was fabulous. I went to the NHS Senior Citizen Dinner, and boy, my heart burst. I was so proud of NHS. The cafeteria was absolutely full. I have no idea how many people were there, but it was just fantastic. And then I was also at the Tricky Tray project graduation, and they made in that night close to $15,000, which is going to be almost enough to host that wonderful celebration that we have for our graduates. So lots of great stuff happening on campus.
Anyone else? Ms. Lewis? I won't take too much time, but yes, I attended Spamalot 4 nights as well. I was thrilled. I missed the senior dinner. I know we talked about it, but that auditorium was almost packed for that show, and that is completely awesome. But yes, the kids, the directors, everyone involved, the moms, the dads, everyone did an amazing job. It was a great show. All the great technology that has been brought into that auditorium really makes it come alive, and our community, I thought, was extremely happy with it. I was thrilled with it. I'm now singing the song still, but it was definitely great, and it just shows the community we have here at Minisink Valley. I know we talk about that a lot, and the amount of teachers that showed up to that show this weekend on their own time was absolutely amazing, and people from the community. So great job to everyone. No one else? All right, thank you all. Mr. Monahan, any more business before the board?
No more business before the board.
All right, motion to enter an executive session to discuss the employment histories of particular persons, matters made under the exempt federal law FERPA, and matter of negotiations with the MBTA. The board may take action after executive session.
So moved, Sean Taher.
Second, Scott Hines.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you everyone for coming. Enjoy the rest of your evening and get home safe.
I'm glad to see so many people.